Good afternoon. I think it's just about turned 12 o'clock, so I'm not going to get away with saying good morning to everybody. So welcome. I hope you're enjoying the event. It's been really nice to speak to lots of you upstairs. So my name's Jen Williams, and I'm from Secarma. And I'm going to talk to you today about a problem that I've experienced a lot in my career, and I'm sure everybody in this room can relate to. And it's all about how do we get what we need from the board to be able to do our roles properly. So I'm going to do a little bit of an odd presentation today, I suppose, because I'm actually not going to discuss security at all. So hopefully you'll take something away that will help you as you go forwards. So just a little bit of information about Secarma. Now this does come with a caveat that I've been working at Secarma now for a whole, 8 days. So this is Secarma as I see it. So we provide a range of services that are all tailored and bespoke to the businesses that are using them. And I think that's really important to us because anybody can buy off-the-shelf products. Unless they fit your business, they're not actually going to add to it. They're going to potentially hinder it. And so we believe in making these services fit your business. So we offer penetration testing. So I think that's one of our core offerings. Correct? Yeah, we offer penetration testing. We offer virtual information security manager services, and actually that's what I've joined Secarma to do. So to be your, I suppose, part-time information security manager, to be on hand whenever you need that kind of, can I just check what I'm doing is right, or can you advise the best way to do this? Can you help me to get some funding from the board, because actually I'm really struggling. We offer accreditation, so in a few different ways. So we can help to implement some of the well-known security standards, so ISO 27001, some of the NIST standards, and Cyber Essentials. We also certify against Cyber Essentials at the basic and the plus level. We offer bespoke consultancy, so if there's something really specific that your business wanted to try or to have some advice about, that's definitely something we can help with. And we also offer that kind of really important security training, so not only end user training, but also security training for those IT professionals that have found themselves kind of in a position where actually their role is the closest thing to security, so they end up with that as part of their role. I'm sure there'll be a few nods with people who can relate to having been in a security role by accident. So yeah, we can provide technical training to those IT professionals. We also do a whole range of vulnerability scanning services, so from one-offs to ongoing vulnerability management. And I know that if you come and speak to Ben upstairs on the stand, he's got a really good demo of a new ongoing penetration and vulnerability management service that he's really proud of, and I think it's a brilliant idea having just joined the business. So yeah, definitely come and have a chat to him about that. So myself, so I already mentioned the bottom one, I've joined Secarma a week ago. I'm an ISO 27001 lead auditor, so I've been through that certification process. I'm also a Cyber Essentials Plus lead assessor, so I do have some technical skills, and I do also I've worked a lot in governance as well. I have a history as an IT director, so whatever challenges you have with getting what you need from the board, I've also been in that position. I've had to ask for money that I know isn't there. I've had to persuade them about projects that they don't really get. So I have been in your shoes of having to try and get what you need. I've helped lots of, particularly SMEs, start their cybersecurity journey. So go from having absolutely nothing to one of the approved accreditation standards. I've worked in heavily regulated industries, so spent the vast majority of my security career working in the legal sector. And joined Secarma as head of vISM services, which is the Virtual Information Security Manager. There we go. So I'm sure everybody can relate to some of the phrases on the board here. So why can't we just use what we've already got? We've already got an IT team, they're probably the right people to do it. We actually need to focus our resources elsewhere. Why can't we focus more on sales? That's where we're going to get the most benefit. One I hear quite a lot is, well, it won't happen to us, we haven't got anything worth hacking, why would we be a target? Or we've already paid for antivirus, we've done security, or we've already paid for our penetration test 3 years ago, we've got our security nailed. I see lots of nods at that one. And you end up kind of getting to the point where you think, they just don't get it. And what I want to do today is, avoiding, again, the topic of security altogether, look at maybe a few of the reasons why the board are struggling to get our messages as IT professionals and as security professionals. And actually, when I think about all the training and all the courses that I've been on in my career, this, for me, was the most powerful thing I ever learnt, and trumps every other certification that I've been through. This was actually the moment that I thought, okay, this is really impactful. Bit of a warning, plenty of generalizations in my slides. I'm going to talk about personalities and personality profiles. Obviously, there are always exceptions to the rule, and there are a group of people, myself included, who think absolutely there's no way I can be profiled. So this is not meant to offend. This is a generalization, and I think you'll be able to relate to it. So I want to talk about a tool that I absolutely love, and it's called the Sdi Triangle. I can't claim to have invented it. It was actually developed by Elias Porter. It's been through many iterations, and it's a tool that helps you to understand how your colleagues and how other people within your business, maybe even clients, are motivated, how they deal with pressure, and how they deal with conflict. And it helps to understand kind of effective ways to communicate. Once you understand somebody's motivations, you understand much better about how you need to put across your message to get what you need. So this is the Sdi Triangle, and you'll notice it's got a few different sections, and I just want to, hopefully you can see my laser, there you go. I'm going to talk you through kind of some of the traits of the people that fit into these different sections and see if you recognize any of it. So up here, we have our red personality quadrant. So the quadrant is called Assertive Directing. Now, these people are usually, you would describe them as the bull in the china shop. They're very impulsive. They like quick decisions. They're action-orientated. They usually find themselves in leadership positions because they're usually the biggest voice in the room. So that's our win at all costs type of person. It doesn't matter how many times I fail, as long as I get to the end result, I'm quite happy. We've then got on the other side of the triangle, the blue quadrant. So our nurturing, altruistic person. So this kind of personality type despises conflict, would do anything to avoid it, is more motivated by, is everybody around me happy? Am I enabling everybody else? Does everybody feel supported? Doesn't matter if I don't win as long as somebody in the room wins. We've then got down at the bottom our analytical green person. So they're driven by logic. They research their field to such an extent that they know they're always correct. If they weren't correct, they wouldn't even be saying what they were saying. So driven by detail, not really interested in outcomes, more interested in the process of getting there. So interested in the why. And I think you'll start to recognize now some of the players in this conflict between the board and the IT person, and why that might happen. So we're going a bit deeper into the profiles. So we've already mentioned assertive, impulsive, concern for the organization of resources to produce results. So think in your head now, who does that sound like? What kind of person in your organization does that sound like? They dislike indecision, so that's one of the kind of red characteristics. So long back and forths over do we do X or do we do Y, that's it's a red flag to a red person. The blue profile, helpful, trusting, they actually quite enjoy feeling needed. And they support others, sometimes to their own detriment. And we've then got this green profile of logical, analytical, principled, enjoys the detail, self-reliance. This person spends a long time developing their own skills and researching things in depth. They dislike emotional decision-making or impulsive decision-making. So let's guess now, as a security or technical professional, where do we sit generally on this triangle? Does anyone want to have a guess where they think they might see themselves? There you go, someone shouted it out.
Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, so there is also, everybody has an element of everything, but yeah, somebody just shouted out. Quite typically, because of the type of person you need to be successful in a technical role, you're quite often around this green area. If you've been in kind of other roles before, you might have gathered some blue skills. You might have actually learned through experience that I actually need a bit of this blue empathy to be able to communicate with the business. If you've been in a really fast-paced organisation where you're dealing with a lot of problems, you might have also picked up a little bit of this red behaviour where, okay, there's a problem, I need to fix it, I need to address the result. So you might find yourself in these quadrants. Now, where do we see business leaders quite often in this? That's it. Red, you might occasionally get a red-green strategist, or you might occasionally get a red-blue coach, but generally, business leaders, by the very nature of who they are, will find themselves up in this quadrant, and that's where we tend to find a lot of the challenges. So we've got now competing this assertive, I want a quick decision, I'm concerned with the outcome, concerned with the result, which naturally goes against the I'm going to give you a lot of detail because I enjoy detail. I'm going to present logical arguments because actually that's what I do, and I'm correct. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be asking you this in the first place. So we've also got the kind of security team are naturally risk averse and cautious because that's what makes them successful in their role. Nobody in their right mind employs a risk-taking security analyst because they wouldn't do very well. They're process-orientated, and they've quite often come from technical backgrounds and actually have transitioned into IT. So they're usually a subject matter expert. They know their field really, really well. You've then got the business leader, who's quite often a generalist, so they don't know any specific area really well, but they've actually touched on all the different areas of business. They're results-orientated. They have to take risks, otherwise their business wouldn't succeed. That's part of being entrepreneurial. And you start to build up a picture now of why there's this natural conflict. So what I want to do going forwards now is just share some of the kind of tips that I can offer you as to how to communicate better as a green person and as a detailed subject matter expert to the kind of generalists who are ultimately making the decisions on where they're going to spend money and where they're going to focus the business. So boards love return on investment. It's a really easy calculation for them to do. Unfortunately, it doesn't fit the security model very well because actually investing in security isn't about what am I going to gain from this. You might get some real ROI benefits in the sense that if you employ a new security tool, you might find actually it automates some processes and you save some money that way. But generally, what we're talking about here is the cost of investment versus the cost of not investing. And I think that's a really kind of powerful way of presenting to the board. What it does rely on is that you've done what we call a quantitative risk assessment. So this investment is going to protect this asset. If we don't protect this asset and there's a data breach, actually we stand to lose this much money. So by investing X, we're protecting the risk of losing X. And when it's laid out in kind of those clear terms, it makes it a lot more difficult to argue with, but you do have a challenge with presenting that cost of risk. So it's really important that when you're doing those risk assessments that they're done quantitatively. Use familiar language. We're creatures of habit. So remove the disconnect between the security team and the board. So when I say language, I'm talking about in the words you say or write down. So technical detail for that high-level thinker is an immediate turn-off, and you'll have seen it before, I'm sure, when you talk to a non-technical person, you use too much technical language, you know instantly what you've done because there's a glaze over and a switch off. So avoid that technical detail, keep it to, play to their red brain, and keep it to, okay, what's the outcome? What's going to happen if we don't? What's going to happen if we do? Use pre-existing templates. So if you know that proposals to the board from other departments are usually in this format, use that. They're familiar, and you've already taken away that disconnect between security and the rest of the business that sometimes exists. Don't just think about the words you're using. Think about the kind of graphics and the color schemes and anything else that allows the board to relate to what you're saying. So if there's a particular graph that's used to measure KPIs in the business, use that for trying to persuade them about your security investment. Be consistent. So if 1 month you're reporting a KPI, report that same KPI so that we can see trends, and we can see that actually if we make an investment in this security tool or security service, then that trend is going to go downwards or upwards, so we can actually see the difference that investments make. I've always found it really helpful, especially as I've worked a lot in the legal sector that is traditionally quite immature when it comes to security. Using those well-known standards and frameworks like ISO 27001 and the National Cybersecurity Centre frameworks that actually have a bit of weight and reputation behind them. So businesses that have ISO 27001 do this. So it's not just take my word for it. You know you're correct already because you're a green thinker and you wouldn't be there asking for it if you weren't correct. But use those standards to back you up. Even if as a business you're not going for them, it's just that extra bit of familiarity and something that the board can connect to. Independent review, so use third parties to your advantage. I've seen this done really well in businesses before, where I've been approached to do a security review, and I've been asked by the IT director, listen, we're really struggling to get funding. Can you look at these specific areas, and can you add lots of detail to these specific areas? So use those independent third parties. It's usually a lot easier to get somebody to take notice when it's not coming from within the business. It's actually a trusted provider, and they've focused on the area that you need focus on, and that gives you then a report you can go back to the board with and say, look, this trusted third party has suggested that we need to do this. The third parties are quite often, they're independent of any kind of internal politics, and they can really help you to focus the board's attention on what needs to happen. Be direct. So as green personalities, we often tend to over-divulge and overshare. We give too much detail because actually that's what motivates us. We love that detail. And as I mentioned before, a red person will get kind of maybe 2 steps into the detail and that's it, done. One of the characteristics of red personalities that I didn't discuss earlier is actually they're quite comfortable making decisions with very little information. If you've ever come across anybody you think, oh yeah, they wing everything, the likelihood is they've got quite a lot of red in their personality. They're quite happy to make decisions on the fly by the seat of the pants, and if they're wrong, well, so be it. Green personalities struggle with the winging it. To make a decision, you need lots of detail, lots of input. So don't include detail that isn't relevant to the decision-making process. So this is not about all the other bits and pieces. It's not about all the technicals, and it's not about how it works. Focus on that outcome. The other big one is prioritize. So the likelihood is you're not going to get agreement for everything all at once. So what's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck? So what's that one area of weakness that you think, actually, we can close loads of our risks in one go if we just did that thing? And it's so much easier to ask for one focused thing, show results, show that actually, look now, our risk score as a business has gone from this to this, just with that piece of investment, thank you. Now we need to do something else. And once you start to get that traction and build up that kind of I suppose familiarity again with the board, so they know that you've come to them with a good idea, they've funded your idea, and actually it's worked. So it becomes a lot easier to ask for that investment again next time. Red personalities thrive on challenge, and they thrive on competition, and they thrive on argument. Conversely, green personalities hate argument and will avoid it at all costs. So this is all about knowing in advance what you're likely to come up against. So the conflict style of a red personality, so the generalized board leader, there are 3 stages. So when they first go into conflict, they will fight and stand up for what they believe in. When they go into the second stage, so if the conflict's still ongoing, they fight a bit harder. And then when they go to that third stage of conflict, so the argument's still ongoing, they fight a bit harder. And that's the conflict style for a red person. Now, conversely, a green person's conflict style is to present logic. The second conflict style is to present logic a bit more. And the third conflict phase is to actually withdraw. And you'll see that a lot in businesses where there's that disconnect, and then the security teams will withdraw altogether from the conversation. And if any of you have kind of worked in multiple businesses, you'll see that in IT and security teams. Oh, they don't get it. I'm not going to bother talking to them about security because I already know what they're going to say. And that's that third stage of conflict where you've actually just withdrawn from the problem. So it always helps to be prepared when you go into these meetings. So put yourself in their shoes. It sounds really obvious. Put yourself in their shoes and think about, actually, with my red brain on, what would I need to know? Or with my red brain on, what kind of things would I ask? And you can arm yourself with that before you go in. Give it context, so you're appealing to their kind of generalist skills. So explain it in terms of what's going on in the world. So if only we'd had this when this major news event happened, we wouldn't have suffered all these consequences. Or given this that's happening in the outside world, our risk in this area has gone up, and give it context that they can relate to. Part of our battle as IT and security professionals is to make it accessible to the parts of the business that are ultimately making the decisions. So give it relatable context. A really good one is compare yourself with other organisations. So this business up the road who do a similar thing to what we do, they've got this. There's nothing more powerful than a little bit of insider info. And then, really importantly, when things do succeed, make sure you measure it and make sure you communicate it. So one thing that green people are really bad at is bragging and saying how well they've done. And that makes it really difficult for senior leaders to be able to see all the good stuff that is going on in the background. So define a really good set of KPIs around your security, and they're not necessarily the ones you'd communicate to your CISO, who might have a little bit more technical understanding. So things like an overall risk score, a one metric snapshot of how well the business is doing and how much risk they're exposed to. How many incidents have you stopped? How many times in the last month have you stopped sensitive data from leaking out of the organisation? And then make sure you're showing the differences between prior to investment and after investment. I just want to finish off by talking a little bit about the Virtual Information Security Manager service that I've been brought in to look after at Secarma. So I mentioned earlier, it's your own part-time information security strategist, so with experience of speaking to the board and helping you to get the support and the investment that you need. Part of your team, I think that's really crucial. So our vISM team will actually come and learn about your business. So we're not a true outsider. We'll come and learn about your infrastructure, learn about your business culture and the business priorities, and that helps us to tailor what we do to suit the business needs. And we can provide a range of services, whether it be recommending software, whether it be recommending policy changes, or actually you really need to look at this area. We can produce reports. We can help with these accreditation standards like ISO 27001, like Cyber Essentials. There you go. Forgot I'd written that slide, but there's another one about all the different things that your vISM agent can do for you. And then just the last one to say, we're on the Secarma stand upstairs. I know Ben's really keen to talk to talk to all of you about our ongoing vulnerability and penetration testing service. And yeah, come and talk to us and ask any questions, and thank you very much for your time.